Alright, it's time to talk more about the slope and the y-intercept of linear equations, specifically how we can calculate those values. Alright, let's go ahead and start off with the slope. The slope is really just a measure of steepness for that line. And if we're going to measure steepness, we need to know a couple of things. First, we need to know how much that line is changing in the y direction, or the up-down direction. And we also need to know how it's changing in the x direction, or the left or right direction. If we have those two quantities, we simply divide them, and we will get our value for slope. Now, rather than just looking at the formula, we want to think of the entire process for calculating this slope. So if you're looking at, say, a graph of a line and you want to calculate slope, you need to go through the following steps. First, you'll go ahead and you'll pick two points anywhere on that line. And with those 2 points, you'll measure the change between those 2 points. First, you'll want to measure in the y direction, so you can have the top part of that calculation, and you'll want to measure in the x direction. Now keep in mind, when we're measuring these change, anytime we're going, say, up or right, we'll consider this a positive value. If we're measuring a change either down or to the left, we'll consider that a negative change. And that'll make sure that the sign for our slope turns out perfectly. All right, once we have all of the quantities that we need, we simply divide our change in y divided by our change in x, and that will give us a value for slope. Now, you may have heard this called by something else. Some people like to say that slope is rise over run, and that's completely okay. That's actually a very nice way that you can memorize this formula. The rise is referring to that change in the y direction, so up and down, and the run is referring to that change in the x direction, or the left and right. So let's take a look at a quick example to see how this might work. So in my diagram, we see that I have 2 points really marked out on the line, and it doesn't matter what 2 points you pick, but you want to pick 2 points where you're really sure where they are located. And now we start really seeing what changes happen between those 2 points. So first, we're going to measure that change in the y direction. So it looks like if I go from the first point to the second point, I have to go down. So we'll measure this as a -2. To get our next change, looks like we're moving to the right. We're moving right 3 units, so we'll measure that as a +3. So we have both of our changes. Time to plug them into our formula. That's what we see here. Our slope is simply -2 divided by 3, or you can call this a -2/3. Now that takes care of slope pretty good. We also want to talk about the y-intercept. The y-intercept is actually a little bit easier. The name kind of gives it away. If you're looking at a graph, then the y-intercept is simply where it crosses the y-axis. So let's jump down here to my example. You can see, sure enough, we have a point that's crossing right at the y-axis, and I can see that that happens at the point 0, 1/2. Now when it actually comes to describing the y-intercept, sometimes we just use that y value. So we might just say that the y-intercept is at 1/2, rather than describing the entire point. All right? And that's a little bit of review for the y-intercept and the slope of a linear equation.
Hey guys, my name is Jess, the head of education here at Wise. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you want to see the complete course, please check out the link in the description. You can also go to one of our playlists to keep learning for free. If you want us to cover a specific course or a specific topic, please leave us a comment below. We post new videos every week, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the new stuff.